All right, everything appears to be in order, and that's a good thing. Let me make sure that my voice is at the right level. Yes, it is. It's not delayed. Okay, we can get started. Let's begin, everybody. Yo, peoples! Kyushu92 here, and welcome to the first One Piece reflection stream of the year 2024. We had 3 chapters in January, and one that saw the full end of the flashback of Kuma, another that saw the greatest punch in One Piece happen, and then another that pretty much saw the Buster Call of Egghead fully begin and start to wipe out the scientific capital of the world. So let's just go through the chapters that we have. Chapters 1103, 1104, and 1105. So with that being said, chapter 1103, titled I'm Sorry, Daddy, sees Bonnie previously, when she was in her adult form, with Vegapunk seeing her walk out of the room that had Kuma's memories in it, him going, did you see everything? And she says that she did, while she's still sniffing, because she still got a little, snot running out of her nose. And Vegapunk is just panting, because he tried to chase after Bonnie, but he's panting, thinking like, well, I've broken my promise to Kuma. And then all of a sudden, he looks down, and we see that Bonnie has changed back to her original state, which is that of a 12-year-old. And she immediately hugs Vegapunk. She immediately hugs Vegapunk, because this entire time that Bonnie has been here on Egghead, she originally thought that Vegapunk was to blame for everything, the state that Kuma was in. When she saw Kuma back in Marijois during the reverie, when Saint Roswald and Charlos were using Kuma as their personal slave, all this time she thought it was Vegapunk's fault. But after looking at Kuma's memories, she realizes that Vegapunk is not at fault here. He was forced into this. Even though Kuma agreed to it, Vegapunk really didn't want to do it. He didn't want to turn Kuma into a mindless slave. He was the one person who was objecting to it the entire time. As fruitful as it was because of, Saturn, but Vegapunk was always on Kuma's side. Sure, he was very interested in him being a buccaneer and him potentially turning him into clones and everything because of the scientific pursuit of it all. But he was very and vehemently against the whole nature of Kuma's entire memory and free will being erased from him. And like I said, he was very vocal about it. Saturn did not care because Saturn does not care about anything except himself and the world government. I don't even know if Saturn has the mindset of caring about himself. He just thinks about you gotta preserve the status quo. We'll get into that a little bit later. So now Bonnie fully realizes in this chapter that Vegapunk is not to blame. And it turns out that this entire time, Vegapunk has had a gift for Bonnie, which has been like this little sapphire necklace. It's like a little homage to the sapphire scales that she's had, but he always called them jewels instead of it being like an actual disease, because it was Saturn who did all of it. And Vegapunk says, he said it would be a good luck charm for you, but indeed, 2 years ago, who could have imagined that boy turning into this? And that's when Bonnie lets Vegapunk know about, Luffy and, his Gear 5 state and all that. And Bonnie goes, so Straw Hat is the son of Daddy's friend? And realizing that Luffy is the son of Dragon, a person that Kuma reveres. And now Bonnie has someone to look towards because this whole time, and I find it amazing. I find it amazing how Bonnie and all these different members of the Worst Generation look at each other as pure enemies. None of them look at them as allies. Yet Bonnie here, due to her upbringing, due to her association with Kuma, and how she was pretty much raised, she seems like the one person from the Worst Generation who's the best suited to become a potential ally to the Straw Hats. Due to, one, Luffy being the son of a person that Kuma admired and decided to go pursue the revolutionaries with. And also the fact that Luffy has the power of the Hito Hito Moni, Hito Hito no Mi, mythical type model Nika, which is essentially the very person that Kuma has brung up Bonnie on. Like the whole idea of Nika, the whole nature of Nika. So now Luffy stands a chance of being one of the few people in the worst generation who actually has a genuine ally due to, good intentions, and not just because it benefits one side, as it was with Law. Because with Law allying with Luffy, he only wanted it in an attempt to take down Kaido, but also because he wanted to bring down Doflamingo. Accomplish his own ends. But as far as Bonnie is concerned, Bonnie stands the greatest chance of being an ally purely because she wants to, because of her upbringing with Kuma. Like, she seems like the type that would jump at the chance to ally with an individual who's closest to Nika right now. So the potential of that is actually quite large when you think about it. So, through this chapter, Bonnie says, "So Straw Hat is the son of Daddy's friend? Yep, I was shocked when I saw the two of you show up together. Fate is such a strange thing sometimes. Once again, another instance where fate rears its head in accordance to the themes of this entire series. While you were in this room, a number of dangerous things have happened on Egghead. The Straw Hat crew just saved my life minutes ago, in fact. And mind you, this is still a little bit of a flashback. I'll tell you everything. Let's go back and meet up with them when things have calmed down. I'm sorry, Bonnie. In the end, I'm nothing more than a hired scientist." And Bonnie is like, just let him know, no, it's not your fault. It's all... And then we cut to the present, where Bonnie, in her adult form, is, currently in the clutches of Saint Saturn. Present day Egghead New World. And Saturn is chastising Bonnie, saying, like, "Jury Bonnie the pirate, your father, Kuma, is dead." And mind you, at the same time, all these Navy officials, all these vice admirals and captains are aiming at Bonnie, because in the last chapter, 1102, he was telling them to take aim at the head of Bonnie while he holds her up so that she can be killed. And Sanji, Vegapunk, and pretty much everyone else, including Atlas and Frankie, they're all still immobilized by this power of Saturn. And Luffy is still heavily emancipated. Well, heavily emancipated from being in his Gear 5 state. And he's groaning that he wants some food. Someone give me some food, I need some meat. And Atlas is all like, I want to, but I can't move. And then Sentomaru has been captured, and everyone's wondering what the situation is. We cut to different locations all over the world where where they're reading the news about the newly christened Emperor Luffy being holed up on Egghead, going a brand new Emperor of the Sea holed up on the island. I suppose it's too much to hope no one dies. They say it's a bigger siege than at Ohara. Is Dr. Vegapunk going to be alright? And these are some individuals who I don't recognize, who are wondering, they know of Vegapunk, which is kind of big when you think about it. These individuals know of Vegapunk. So it's not like Vegapunk is this scientist who's been hired by the world government and no one knows about him. The world knows of Vegapunk. It's just that they also know that he works for the world government. So it's not like a big secret of who he is. Then we have Dragon conversating with Ivankov. Mind you, at this same instance when Sentomaru and everyone is being held captive, Kizaru is just thinking Sentomaru, Bonnie. And then it cuts to everyone else's reactions to Luffy's antics at Egghead right now. Then we have Dragon talking to Ivankov. If Kuma's running off of some fragment of his true instincts, where do you think he'll go, Eva? And Eva goes, if it were me, I'd charge Marijois without a second thought. But Kuma's different. I think he'll... And then it shows Bonnie still being taken aimed at. As she goes, if I'm going to die anyway, I might as well take you down with me. Distorted future, Nika-like future. And this catches Saturn's attention because Bonnie knows of Nika as well, as her body enlarges and she prepares to use her power against Saturn and tries to hit him directly in the head, but her powers don't work they don't work like she wants them to. And she's confused, like, I'm getting weaker, why? And while Saturn continues to squeeze Bonnie, he goes, I see you're his daughter, eh? And you know that name, but you don't know what it is. She doesn't seem to have made the connection between Nika and Straw Hat's white-colored form. Because Bonnie has seen Luffy's white-colored form, but she doesn't know that that's Nika. That the visage of Nika. She doesn't know that part yet. Which is why I said that Bonnie stands the chance of being a great, one of the few people from the worst generation to be an ally to the Straw Hats due to that Nika association. But Bonnie has not made that connection quite yet. So, he's holding her up, strangling her. She doesn't seem to have made the connection between Nika and Straw Hat's white-colored form. Such a shame. And then it shows Luffy, who somehow has a whole bunch of food right next to him. And a lot of people were saying that during this chapter, Kizaru was the one who gave him all the food. Yet we don't fully know if that's the case. We honestly don't know if that's the case, if Kizaru was the one who gave him all the food. But Luffy suddenly has food next to him. He's chowing down. And Saturn's all like, hey, who gave him food? Put Sea Prism Stone cuffs on him at once. And all the other dudes are all like, huh? So my thing is, we don't know if it was Kizaru who did it. We don't know. Yet at the same time, who could be fast enough to get all that food to Luffy without anyone noticing? The fact that Saturn didn't notice, nor anyone who was close to Luffy noticed all that food there. I mean, Kizaru's fast. He's very fast. So he could have done it. But Luffy is just chowing down on all this food, and then it shows Kizaru, who has slumped himself up against a piece of rubble, but he's still not fully up. And Bonnie's going, I can't use my age-changing powers on this old guy? How come? I gave you that power, Bonnie, and we find out that Bonnie, the reason why, the way that Bonnie gained power was not through the conventional means of consuming a devil fruit. It was an experiment to see if an infant incapable of eating solid fruit could be given powers with an extract. So literally the juices of the age fruit was given to Bonnie as a baby. She literally was a baby, and she's had this devil fruit power, which coincidentally makes her the youngest person in One Piece to gain a devil fruit power. Because usually when we see people gain devil fruit powers, they're usually like either sometimes children, or in Luffy's case, we all thought that Luffy gaining a devil fruit power at his age during the start of the series, we thought that was the youngest. But now we see that Bonnie is in fact the youngest person to ever get a devil fruit in the series thus far, because she got it as a baby, like a literal newborn. And she's had it. She's now officially, she pretty much had her devil fruit power almost near birth, I would dare say. So it's kind of interesting about that. A lot of things that we once thought was like the first time we ever seen it, now chronologically we're getting new stuff. So Bonnie is now the youngest devil fruit user, even younger than Luffy, because she's had her power since she was a baby. It was an experiment to see if an infant incapable of eating solid fruit could be given powers with an extract. It was successful, but the fruit itself was worthless, as is the case with any devil fruit. If you try to have two people eat the devil fruit at the same time, well, not at the same time, but if you try to have two people eat the same devil fruit, only the person who eats it first gets the power. Then the fruit itself becomes, devoid of that power and incredibly nasty. Even though it's already nasty to eat, it just becomes like a worthless fruit after that. So the juices, I just want to assume that when he says extract, I mean, the only thing I can think of an extract from a fruit is the juices itself. So the juices from it was given to Bonnie. She consumed it. She gained the power of that fruit, and she's had it ever since. And then the fruit became worthless afterwards. Its powers might allow you to transform into any future, but the more you know of reality, the narrower your future possibilities become. You want to believe in Nika, don't you? And we have Kuma flying through the air towards Egghead. Nika is real. And this is Bonnie saying, Nika is real. Ever since the day my father became a cyborg that obeys your orders, I've been searching for Nika, hoping that he'll be able to free Daddy. And your current weakness is evidence that you've begun to think he's not real. Your father believed in the idiotic legends of the Buccaneers as well. He said to me, I want to save people like Nika does. Years later, I performed a chemical experiment on your mother, who was the 8th wife of a fellow in the Holy Land. It was a failure. Those blue blemishes showed up again. But, although it didn't have the desired result, I found it quite curious that the same effects were passed down to her daughter. And this is the chapter where we find out that, Neil Johnson, who has been a member for 22 months, my dude, I just gotta acknowledge this. Clap for the man. Clap for the man. Been a busy month, haven't gotten my Q fix until today. Hello, peoples. Neil Johnson, it's good to see you. Thank you. Thank you for being a member. Can I just say that? For 22 months, dude, you are 2 months shy of being a member for 2 full years. Can I say that? That's mind-blowing to me. That's mind-blowing. You have been here from the start, ever since I started like my whole membership thing for my channel. You've been here from the start, and you've been a member ever since. And I just want to say how much I appreciate that. You've helped this channel financially, and I just want to say thank you for that. Neil Johnson, you the real one. Not just because you're a member and you're paying money every single month. I just want to say you're a real one, and I admire you, and I appreciate your presence here. So, it's always good to see you, man. Yeah, and welcome. Enjoy yourself, man. We're having this One Piece reflections about the 3 chapters we got this month. So, we find out in this chapter that Jay Garcia is the one who experimented on Ginny, and she became afflicted with the sapphire scales, which was then passed down to Bonnie. And the events of this is what caused Kuma to become a cyborg in the first place. So it pretty much worked all in Jay Garcia's favor. And as something lands on Egghead, people are wondering, what just crashed onto the island? And then Bonnie starts to realize that all the pain that she suffered is because of Jay Garcia. It wasn't happenstance. It wasn't some random moment or random thing that happened. It was because of Jay Garcia that all the events of Kuma's pain and Bonnie's pain, all of that stems from him personally. And that's when Vegapunk gets livid. And this is one of the moments where Vegapunk really starts to show his absolute disdain for the Godo Saiyan, specifically Saturn, because both he and Saturn are both scientists. I mean, Saturn is the godhead of science and research. So this just sends Vegapunk over the edge. He says, you did that as an experiment, Saturn? Those sapphire scales tore Kuma's family apart. He gave up his life to stop them, and you had the gall to offer him a deal as though you were doing him a favor? And this is when I start to really like Vegapunk. Because Vegapunk he's never been in a position where he could speak out against the Gorosei, and specifically Saturn, because of their scientific background. But here, Vegapunk is fed up with their foolishness and their disregard for human life. They're just straight up disregard for life in general. It's crazy and insane, the mindset of every single member of the Gorosei. And you really see that in action in this chapter, where Jay Garcia speaks with such a despondent and absent feeling towards humanity, as if he's separate from them. Mind you, he's a celestial dragon, but he's a kind that, doesn't dress up the way they do, doesn't wear bubbles in order to go down to the surface. But he just sees himself, as well as the rest of the Gorosei, as completely separate from the rest of humanity, to the point where their lives mean nothing. Absolutely nothing. They want these people to be subservient to them, to be complacent. And I'll touch more on the complacency for the final chapter of this month. But they are just so detached from humanity, not unlike that of Dr. Manhattan from Watchmen, where he became incredibly detached from humanity due to the overwhelmingly vast amount of power that he gained when his intrinsic field was robbed of him and he became basically a god. But the difference between Dr. Manhattan and Jay Garcia is that Dr. Manhattan still has a semblance of humanity left. Whereas Jay Garcia, while at times he can feel like disappointed that certain people have to be lost, and he was like, I can't, it's such a waste to lose Vegapunk. At the end of the day, he still does not have the humanity in him to reconsider such options. So, the whole detachment from humanity for Jay Garcia is made very apparent in this chapter, the next one, and then the one after it. So, all I'm saying is, for these individuals who want things to stay as they are, who are completely okay with the status quo remaining the same, but also still counting on people to serve them, and yet not have a shred of humanity to care about their lives so that these people can still serve them. It's like, I mean, I keep forgetting that he also said the line that humankind, these humans are like insects. We can always gain more. They all will always gain more. And it's just like that one king, and I brought this up during that reaction and that reflection as well. It's just like that one king from Final Fantasy 16. For however many people we lose, we can always have more be born. And that's the mindset of Jay Garcia, and I would dare say the rest of the Godosei, because they all think pretty much the same in line of how they view humanity. Jay Garcia is pretty much the most vocal about it. So he just sees humanity as insects, bugs, things that could be squashed on a whim, and they're just as plentiful as bugs. So even if we have to destroy an entire nation, more will be born to make up for the loss. And it's just so... Well, first we got to talk about how Oda has written these characters to such a degree where they're not just trademark villains. I'm evil, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and I'm going to make you hate me. No, this was built up for Jay Garcia, where we saw more and more of his lack of humanity, and it made us dislike him. But I want to say it was this chapter that put Jay Garcia on my he absolutely has to die this arc list. Oda knows how to write tyrannical power. Exactly. He knows how to write tyrants. He knows how to write people who have power and abuse it. Oda is very good at that. We've had Crocodile. We've had Arlong. We have had Doflamingo. We've had Kaido. We've had Orochi. And now we have Jay Garcia. People in power who could care less about the people underneath them. Oda knows how to write tyrants. And that's very good, because now we can hate Jay Garcia for all the things he's done. Not just because he's one of the main villains of the entire for the rest of One Piece, but because of him, we can hate Jay Garcia as an individual. Not just because he's part of a group of people who have no qualms about killing an entire nation just because they know about the Void Century or they know too much. We can hate Jay Garcia on an individual level. And I have to say that for Oda to write characters this way, where we can hate them down to an individual level, speaks on Oda's love on the way he writes characters. So going back, because we're still on 1103. We find out that Jay Garcia is the reason for all of Kuma's pain, the disease for Jenny, the disease for Bonnie, and how Kuma wound up being a subservient cyborg that would later lose all his free will and and memories. And then Jay Garcia goes, put yourself in my shoes. Would you bother yourself with the feelings of insects? Once again, referring to humans as insects. He doesn't even call people humans. He calls them less than human. He looks at humans as insects. The phrase humankind is not something that he tends to use a lot. It's really just people are bugs. Like these entire families who are struggling. Insects, they can die. We'll have more that can be born. It just shows the lack of humanity. Put yourself in my shoes. Would you bother yourself with the feelings of insects? It is impossible. Now, mind you, it is not impossible. It's just that Jay Garcia cannot fathom caring about the lives of other people. That's what can be taken from this sentence. Would you bother yourself with the feelings of insects? It is impossible. And Bonnie is just tearing up and shivering because now she knows that everything she's been through, the reason why she could never get a letter from Kuma, the reason why she could never see Kuma is because of Saturn and his machinations. And mind you, we are on a full tangent just hating on Jay Garcia, and we still got 4 other members of the Gorosei to deal with after this. We got a whole arc where we get just one, and he's already a massive handful. We still got 4 other dudes. Kitty, hello, good to see you. We are talking about the chapters of One Piece. We are on chapters 1103. I still got 1104 and 1105. I'm just going over it and giving my thoughts and where I think the story is going to go. I do this every month. I know you've been here before. You know. That's messed up on so many levels. Kitty, it is. There's so much messed up nonsense that goes on in One Piece. Now, mind you, it's not messed up because of Oda. It's messed up because of the characters themselves. The Gorosei are by far one of the most nefarious group of individuals in the entire series. They've orchestrated the entire eradication of an island of scholars who simply just want to learn the world's history. But because it's considered taboo, every single one of them were killed. All of them, except for one. And that was Nico Robin. Haven't read or really watched a One Piece, but gonna chill and listen? Oh, then I'll be happy to bring you up to speed in the story of One Piece. So, we are currently in an arc right now where we're at the scientific capital of the world, where the Straw Hats just ran into this area. They weren't even gonna go to Egghead at all. But because they ran into Jewelry Bonnie, they got dragged into a situation where the world's smartest man, a man called Dr. Vegapunk, who is so advanced in his capabilities as a scientist that a lot of the things that he's created are entire centuries ahead of what anyone else can create in the entirety of One Piece. He's the only person who has been able to reverse engineer technology from 800 years ago that is already 500 years ahead of where the world is right now. So let that knowledge sink in. He's the only person who has been able to reverse engineer technology from 8 centuries ago that is being used today that is considered 500 years ahead of where technological advancements are right now. So, but unfortunately for him, he just craves knowledge. He even ate a devil fruit that allowed his brain to increase in size so that he could have basically endless knowledge. But, you know, when you're walking around with a head that makes you taller than everyone else who walks around you, he had to cut some corners and figure some things out. So he kind of sliced his brain, turned it into a digital hovering records where all of his knowledge could be contained into one place, and also separated different aspects of his own personality into several different robotic synthetic bodies that could fulfill the needs that only a single body can do. Like, one body is made for thinking of ideas, another one is for crunching numbers, another is for being greedy and gathering funds, another is for his good side and making good decisions. Another one is purely based off of his own violence, and another one is basically for the bodily functions, eating, sleeping, and then going to use the bathroom. But I say all that to say this: due to his quest for knowledge and his vast desire to know tons of things, he delved into learning about the Void Sentry, and he knows about it. Unfortunately, knowledge of the Void Century is considered taboo by the Gorosei, the five elders, of which J. Garcia Saturn, the person I've been talking about who lacks humanity, considered to be a punishable offense, an offense punishable by death. And this is not the first time that someone has found out history about the Void Century and they were sentenced to death. The island of Ohara, which is essentially an island of scholars who, like I said before, desire nothing more than to learn the world's history. Not to use it for any nefarious means, but simply because they just want to know. They then get found out by the world government and the Gorosei, the five elders, and every single one of them are killed except for one singular little girl who's allowed to live thanks to a person who risked their lives to save her. Everyone else was killed, the entire island was razed to the ground, and all of their knowledge, at the time, was presumably lost. But we then later find out that in the aftermath of the Ohara incident, which it came to be called, giants from the land of Elbaf, fable if you read it backwards, they came and found that the scholars had thrown all of their research into a giant lake that the world government never found. And the giants came, gained all of that knowledge, all the knowledge of Ohara that they could find, and brought it back to the giant land of Elbaf, which is where Vegapunk went, and he learned everything. He learned all that the scholars have learned. In the process, though, however, he has come under fire because of the world government not wanting anyone to know the Void Century, simply because knowledge of the Void Century is detrimental to the world government. They fear the knowledge coming out. The world government has been ruling the entire world for the past 800 years, and knowledge of the Void Century would compromise their position, would compromise everything that they have set into place for the past 8 centuries. So they don't want anyone knowing, not because it's detrimental to the person knowing it, it's detrimental to their standing and their position in the world. So they do everything they can to erase every trace of it, including killing anybody who knows about it, regardless of how important they are. Case in point, Vegapunk, the smartest man in the world, also a hired scientist of the world government. They are saddened, and they say that they say it's disappointing that Vegapunk knows about the Void Century, but they still stick with their guns and decide to send assassins over to kill Vegapunk. Things transpire, the assassins get bodied, one of them turns out to be a mole that has been working with Vegapunk the entire time. So, and her name is Stussy, who we come to later find out that Stussy, the mole that's working with him, is actually the clone of another individual who once was a crew member of one of the most notorious pirate crews in the world, the Rocks Pirates. It's been 23 or 24 years since we learned of Elbaf, and we still haven't gone there yet. Probably next island. Actually, Neil, that's the next place we're supposed to be going. That's the plan. It's been a hot minute since they talked about the plan, but the Straw Hats and Vegapunk intend to go to Elbaf next. Unfortunately, however, this conversation was also overheard by the very same people that intended to kill him. 23 or 24 One Piece time or in real life? Real life. It was 24 years where Elbaf was first mentioned in One Piece. And it's been 2 decades since we've had talk about Elbaf. And it was in this arc where we finally had our heading. We have our heading, Mr. Gibbs. So our next heading is to go to Elbaf after this arc. And to put it lightly, people have been wanting to go to Elbaf ever since it was first mentioned. I dare say it was back when it was mentioned when we first got introduced to Dorian Broggy. I think it was Usopp who mentioned it first. And then we got Dorian Broggy, and they mentioned Elbaf once more. We got a small glimpse of Elbaf when we looked into Big Mom's backstory, how she was raised with Mother Caramel and the other children's in the orphanage / child trafficking building for the world government. There's a whole story on that too, kitty. But we only saw a little bit of Elbaf. And then we saw a little bit of Elbaf again when we had Shanks show up. And he was chilling with his giant friends and his crew members before Kid and his crew decided to roll up and, well, they got their behinds handed to him at Elbaf. And that's the last we saw of it. That's the last we saw of Elbaf. But that's the next location we are supposed to be going after the Egghead arc is done. And I have to say, when we get to Elbaf, if we wind up going to the same place where all that knowledge is, where the Giants have kept it, where the Giants, if Robin manages to find that location, all the knowledge of the Ohara scholars that she hasn't been able to see since she was a child, after watching her entire home just burn to the ground because of a Buster Call, this Elbaf may be yet another info-packed arc for us. But I say all that to say this. We're in a position right now where Egghead is currently undergoing a Buster Call, and I'll cross that bridge when we get to it once I get to this chapter. But this arc has really just shown that the Gorosei, the Five Elders, are the worst individuals in the entirety of One Piece. Now, mind you, you have Celestial Dragons, who are pretty much these individuals who are said to have the blood of gods. I wonder why... Oh, that was weird. Hold on. Oh, that's because my video playback had not caught up yet. I was wondering why the chat wasn't looking good and looking small on one side. But Celestial Dragons in the world of One Piece are essentially the highest form of nobility in the entire world. From here to Laugh Tale, it's all going to be super dense with reveals, details, and dangers. And Alessio, you say you have bad news about Chris? Yo, CDs, it's good to see you, man. I'm still on chapter 1103. I'm not moving incredibly fast through it, but I really do need to pick up the pace with the other two chapters. But we're just talking about like where we're at with One Piece, and I'm also kind of telling, you know, you ain't supposed to be here. Yeah, you're not. You're not, because I know you're not caught up with the anime. And I don't want to spoil you on what's going on, or I don't want to spoil you on what's going on One Piece if you haven't caught up yet. I don't want to. I can't say anything. Don't give you that look? No. You just gonna show up on the reflections knowing good and well that I'm gonna be talking about stuff that you have not seen yet? And you expect me to not give you that look? Oh no. Alessi, he was just here. He was just here the other day. For those who are wondering who Chris is, that's Yoda. He was just here the other day. When was I playing Shadow of the Colossus? Monday? He was just here on Monday, saying, sorry I was having a hard time. I didn't mean to worry you guys. And I was happy to see him. I was grateful to see him. I thought I was gonna see him again. What does one say? It's not confirmed, but your mom said that, so you don't know. You don't know for now. Um, I don't know what to say to that. Condolences. Yeah, my condolences as well. Ravi, it's good to see you. What does one say to that? What's going on? He might have just faked his. So not sure. We'll tell you next time. Alessio, and I'm being extremely serious when I say this. Please find out if it's 100% true. Please find out because this is not a joking matter. This is not something to take lightly. And please find out if this is true or not. Because if it's true, my condolences to his family and everyone involved. If it is not true, and this is just a hoax, and I don't want it to be a hoax. But if it is not true and it's just a hoax to to farm sympathy for someone, there will be repercussions. Because this is not something that I would ever joke about. This is not something I would take time to stop streams in order to talk to this person. So I really hope it's not a hoax. And at the same time, I really hope it's not true that he's gone. But I really hope that this is not a hoax because it would not, obviously, it would not be funny. So, Alessio, find out. Find out for sure and get back to us. Find out for sure, get back to us. We'll be here. You let us know if it's true or not. Just got confirmed, so it's true. Okay. So my condolences to the family. They may not know me. I'm just a random YouTuber. I'm just a guy online who does this for a living, but my condolences to all of his family, all of his friends. I'm sorry for this news to come out. I really hoped that he was okay when he showed up during one of my streams saying that I'm sorry I worried you guys. I was really hoping that he would be on the mend and I could, entertain him, brighten up his day so that he wouldn't have those thoughts. But I guess I guess I didn't try hard enough. Guess it wasn't good enough from me. And I'm not going to say that it's my fault. Cuz you never know what people are going through. I can only do so much from the other side of a screen. Alessio, you don't have to go fully into detail about it. You don't. You don't. Cuz this is if it since this uh No, 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 no. Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry, Kitty. Don't worry, Kitty. I'm not going to internalize it. I'm not internalizing it. I'm not saying that it's my fault that I couldn't get through to him. Uh, Even though that thought can pop up, but I can only do so much as a person on the other side of the screen. We don't know what a person is going through. We don't know what's going on with their heart, with their mind, how they're feeling. We don't. There's only so much that I can do, and I don't have the word. I don't know every perfect word to say to people when they show up. I can only be the best me that I can be, and hope that what I do resonates with people enough where they realize that, hey, life is good. I'm alive, so things can get better. There's always a chance. You got to head back to work. CDs, you enjoy yourself at work. Um, Catch up on One Piece so that way I don't spoil you on anything. But you never know what people are going through, and you got to be careful. Really wish that he, stuck around a little longer just so I could entertain him a little bit more, you know. Be here for more One Piece, be here for more, you know, gaming streams, be here for streams where I'm just talking to you guys. It's unfortunate. All the more reason for me to keep doing what I'm doing so that I can continue to tell people that things will be all right. Things will be okay. Regardless of how bad it is, it can always and will always get better. So, once again, Alessio, my condolences to his family and to his friends. We wish them the very best. If that means anything coming from just some guy on YouTube, uh, our hearts are with you. And we are here for, whatever we could do to make your day feel less sorrowful. Take your time to heal, whatever you have to do. And we're praying for you. That's Kumalala. Hey, bro, what happened? So I don't know if you've been here long enough to know of a viewer of mine by the name of Yoda, Yoda the Great. We just found out that he is no longer with us, and it's unfortunate news to hear. But I have to continue on. I got to keep. We, as a group, as a community, we got to continue on. We'll remember Yoda for all the times he showed up, enjoyed himself while he was here, and just keep him in our hearts while we, keep the family in our prayers. So I got to continue on with what I am doing here. So this whole and I was giving Kitty a history lesson in One Piece. Celestial dragons, and I got to get back to this. Celestial dragons are individuals who are descendants from the people who formed the world government 800 years ago. And they are considered the worst types of human beings, where they see their blood as blood of gods. They see themselves as gods. No one can object to them. No one can obstruct them. No one can tell them what to do. They literally can do anything, and people hate them simply because they can do anything. If a male celestial dragon is walking out in the streets, and say, for instance, a brother and his sister are walking in the streets, they're shopping for their family, and the celestial dragon sees the sister and wants him from a wife, wants her for a wife, he could just take her right then and there on the spot. And if the brother were to object, and I say this thinking of when husband and wife were walking through the streets in the Sabaody arc, and celestial dragon Saint Charlos saw that woman and says like, I like her, make her my wife. And then one of his, subordinate just goes over and is all like, St. Charlos has chosen you as his wife. Please come with me. And the husband was objecting, and he was immediately shot because you're not allowed to object a celestial dragon because they're seen as gods, even though, they've been shown to bleed. So, it makes you question the whole god thing when they are bleeding and they're left helpless because they can do whatever they want. No one can object to them. They can call in for a Buster Call at any time. They can call in for an admiral for any insurrection. And it's considered taboo to lay hands on a celestial dragon, which Luffy has done once before. And that's what jump-started the whole event of the Sabaody Archipelago, where Kizaru first appeared, and St. Charlos was heavily beaten by Luffy. Luffy punched him one time and knocked him out. And then, of course, his sister and father kind of got messed up by Rayleigh and Usopp, respectively. But the Gorosei are on the same lines as celestial dragons. They are just like they were not married. They were just engaged, I think. Yeah, you're right. It's been a hot minute since I read through that whole arc. The celestial the Gorosei, the five elders, they're considered to be celestial dragons as well, but they are considered to be the top celestial dragons. And I say all that to say this. They are so detached from humanity that they look at anyone who does not live in Marijois, which is the land in which all the celestial dragons live, and the land in which the Gorosei live. They see them as just insects. And I'm really just going off of Jay Garcia's words, because we haven't had any other member of the Gorosei by themselves. This is actually the first time a celestial dragon has come down to the world below Marijois since the events of God Valley. And God Valley was the last time that Jay Garcia was on the ground with regular people before he ascended to Marijois and stayed there pretty much the vast majority of the series up until this very arc. And above the Gorosei is Imu, if you will, Im-sama, who is the true ruler of the world. And it's speculated that he has actually been ruling the world for centuries, somehow immortal, and has been the secret ruler of the world that even the Gorosei bow down to. So they are now, the Gorosei, Im-sama, and Blackbeard are now considered to be the final antagonists of the entire One Piece series. Im-sama, because he's the true ruler of the world, and, well, just like the rest of the Gorosei, he's evil, got a dip, peace and health. All right, kitty. Yeah, I just wanted to give you like a little bit of a history lesson with One Piece. It would probably take me a long time to explain everything to you, but this is where we're at right now. Egghead is being assaulted and is being bombarded by a Buster Call, and now we're just wondering, how are we going to get out of this mother of all Buster Calls, which is the world's biggest Buster Call compared to Ohara. So that's where we're at right now, kitty. Skip! Good to see you. So we got to continue on with 1103 because I'm almost done. Then I got to move on to 1104, then 1105. Then I'll give my, final thoughts on where we are at in One Piece, and then take a break, possibly try and get some lunch, and then have a small, short session of Suicide Squad right before the State of Play later today at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I got a busy day today. But finding all of this out, Kuma lands on Egghead. We're still on 1103. And they're getting and all the Navy is getting notified that Kuma has landed on Egghead. And he starts taking off. And there's explosions in the distance as Kuma is taking off. And they're trying to take down Kuma. But nothing's working. Not even the authority chip, which is supposed to be working on him, is supposed to be working on him. And we get Jay Garcia, who says, "What nonsense is this? Kuma couldn't possibly be here." Now, my thing is, I thought this was a passing sentence. But we don't find out until 1105 the real meaning behind this sentence. Bonnie is shivering and she's scared, she's crying, and Vegapunk is going, "Kuma, but why?" And they're getting told, and Jay Garcia is saying, like, "Stop him, shoot if you must." "Yes, sir." Hold on, let me get chat off to this side. Sorry, I'll watch it later. Kitty, you're fine, don't even worry about it. Let me get chat off to the side so that way I can read I can read and look at this at the same time. There we go. Good. Bonnie's crying and shivering. Vegapunk's wondering, Kuma, but why? Saturn is ordering them to shoot Kuma. And Bonnie's thinking to herself, I can't even speak. Hey, Daddy, I think my spirit is breaking down. And Kuma is just running towards all of them. And he's not stopping. He's literally a Terminator. He is not stopping. He's the Juggernaut right now. He's not stopping as Bonnie starts to change into her, well, she's still in her adult form, but she's still crying, going, maybe it'll be easier if I just die. I'm sorry, Daddy. And then Jay Garcia goes, enough of this squalling, you obnoxious brat. Shoot him through the head, as Bonnie is still being held up and squeezed by Jay Garcia. And then it shows Kuma, who starts aiming, and he blasts. And mind you, Kuma still has the paw pads on his hands. That old robot will help and escape for sure, just a matter of time, how, and when. See, we haven't seen the robot ever since it activated and turned on when Luffy first went Gear 5 when he was fighting Kizaru. We haven't seen the robot since then. But honestly, I feel like the robot really is going to be the thing that saves everybody, since the Vega Force 1 was destroyed by Kizaru, who used Luffy as a living railgun round. But Kuma blasts all of the Navy officials around Jay Garcia while he's holding up Bonnie. All the people that were aiming at Bonnie, they get blasted right beside him. So he's obviously using his mouth blast, since he doesn't have like the holes in his palms that shoot out blasts, because that's where his devil fruit paws are. And Jay Garcia takes Bonnie and proceeds to throw her on the ground, and then lifts up one of his spider legs in an attempt to stab and kill Bonnie. But then we see a hand sweep up, and it picks up Bonnie, as it shows Kuma, who allows himself to be stabbed in the back by Jay Garcia. And Bonnie's just there crying her eyes out. And everyone is screaming, it's Bartholomew Kuma! Kuma forcibly taking the spike, the big old spiked foot of Jay Garcia out of his back. Him bringing his hand back, while he's also holding the leg of Jay Garcia, so he can't get away, hockeys up his arm. And it shows Bonnie, who's on the ground, now in her childlike state because she couldn't maintain her adult form anymore. She's now crying as Kuma prepares to punch Jay Garcia, who can only watch in horror. And I have to say, out of all the chapters that we got this month, the prelude to what we get in 1104, it was just so therapeutic, you know? It was the cathartic, that would be the word. Cathartic on the very thought that a member of the Gorosei was about to be decked in the face by someone. We haven't seen a celestial dragon get grievously injured. Gotta go, later days all. Neil Johnson, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for being a member for 22 months. Clap, clap, clap. Thank you for all the time and support you give this channel and me. I really do appreciate it. But the prelude for 1104 was just a thought like, we're about to see a member of the Gorosei actually get punched, actually get injured, aside from Bonnie taking a sword and stabbing Jay Garcia in the chest, which proved to be fruitless, and we'll see some more fruitless efforts in this chapter here. But just the mere thought that we could potentially see a member of the Gorosei just punched and injured in the face, it was like, we haven't seen a celestial dragon get punched in the face since Charlos. And I'm not counting when Leo and Sai flattened Charlos's head during the reverie. I mean specifically fists to face. So this is the second time that we would see it. So just the mere thought of it. Psycho, good to see you. The mere thought of it was like, wow. We really are in the end game if members of the Gorosei are getting just punched in the face. So, we then continue with 1104, Thank You, Daddy. The last one was called I'm Sorry, Daddy, but this one is called Thank You, Daddy, as it shows Kuma rearing up to punch Jay Garcia. Then we have memories of Kuma when he was a child, And Jay Garcia is thinking, the Buccaneer boy. Your only options are slavery or death. And then it cuts to Kuma thinking about his time with his father when he was enslaved. Your mother's dead, son, but I think she's better off that way. And then it shows Ginny, and when she was a child, saying, I'm so happy. Then it shows Ginny's Denden Mushi when she's saying, I'm sorry, Kumachi, I'm dying, it won't be long now. Then it shows Kuma in his family's church, holding a young baby Bonnie. Then we cut to the present, as Bonnie's crying, and Jay Garcia is going, why is this happening, Vegapunk? He should be dead. A few days after the Revolutionary Army took Kuma away, I pressed his self-destruct switch. So now we go back to the sentence where he says, like, why is Kuma here? That shouldn't be possible. That sentence I didn't really think too much about is because he is thinking, I flipped his self-destruct switch the moment the revolutionaries took him during the events of the Reverie. The whole moment where Kuma was liberated by Sabo, Morley, and Lindbergh, and every other big commander, when they were there during the Reverie, and they did everything they did, like burn the holy symbol of the Celestial Dragons, burn their food supply. When Kuma was taken, Jay Garcia flipped the switch, but it didn't work. It was, because we later find out that it wasn't in fact a self-destruct switch, but it was actually a shutdown switch. Not something that was meant to kill Kuma, but it was meant to just permanently shut him down. And that still didn't work. So, while Vegapunk is going like, huh? It shows Kuma, teeth gritted, bloodied face. His fist goes, and it proceeds to find its place directly in the face of Jay Garcia. Not, like in his cheek. Not on his cheek, but directly in his face. And then Jay Garcia, while he's getting punched, he glares at Kuma, who proceeds to punch Jay Garcia far away and body him, sending his body skidding into several buildings in the process. And at the same time, Kuma broke one of his horns, and all the buildings that he got knocked into start to fall directly down on top of Jay Garcia. One of the most, well, actually, I can't say one of the most. It is the most satisfying punch in One Piece thus far. We've seen many punches. Luffy punching Charlos, obviously. Luffy punching Bellamy. Luffy punching, who's another one that he punched? Luffy punching Kaido. We've seen a lot of satisfying punches in One Piece, not just with Luffy, but other people as well. We even had that one punch from Doflamingo where he sends Luffy flying towards him during Dressrosa, hockeys up his fist, and then proceeds to embed his fist in Luffy's face. There's a lot of satisfying punches. Whitebeard throwing Akainu into the air and proceeding to quake punch this man's internal body so hard that it almost destroys Marijois. That's how much anger he had. There's a lot of satisfying punches in this entire series. But out of every single one-hit punch in this series, this was by far the most satisfying and deserved. You see, the Celestial Dragon with Charlos, him being happy that he shot Hachi, a person that Luffy saw as a friend. He earned that. Bellamy, who messed up saying Mont Blanc Cricket, Luffy punched him out, one-shot him, deserved. Akainu getting smashed in his side by Whitebeard because of Akainu killing Ace, deserved. Kaido getting punched in the face of an individual he thought was lesser than himself, only to be hit by the very same thing he was using against Luffy, which was Conqueror's Emission, and then to see Luffy just not only surpass Kaido in that, but also defeat him when Kaido was at his absolute strongest with his, was it Kaion Hake? His dragon, Flame Dragon Bagua, and Luffy still beat him with his Bajran gun. That was completely deserved because of everything that Kaido has done, along with Orochi, for all of people of Wano. And now we're here, where Kuma, of all people, especially after his backstory, where we find out he's a pacifist. He doesn't like violence, yet he engages in it in order to save people, not as a means to an end, but to save other individuals. And he merely did things when he was like from Thriller Bark all the way to Marineford. That was him just following orders. And Kuma at the time during Marineford was just completely soulless. Just completely soulless and completely mindless. And it was at that point because Kuma still had his thoughts during Thriller Bark. He still had his free will. But it wasn't until the events of Marineford where his entire will was completely gone. Because even during Sabaody, when he saved the entire Straw Hat crew and said, like, no, you must live. You're destined to be the one to save the world someday. He still has free will then. But it wasn't until Marineford, where it was after the events of Vegapunk wiping his memories and his free will, where he was just like a soulless cyborg. But to see that type of individual show up despite having their free will and memories wiped, fly towards Egghead, make a beeline to save Bonnie, and then waste no time punching St. Charlos. It is by far the after every not St. Charlos, I meant to say Saturn. After everything we've learned of Saturn, this is by far the most deserved punch in all of One Piece. Everything he did to Ginny, everything he did to Bonnie, everything he orchestrated to make it so that Kuma could be turned into the world government's own personal cyborg because it was advantageous for them. All the hurt, pain, and misery that Kuma has known his entire life, including everything that happened to Jenny and Bonnie, all of that, to culminate in Kuma flying in and punching this man in the face. The most deserved beatdown ever. And I love it. I love it! So Charlos gets punched, buildings fall on top of him, and all the Navy is like, well, look at the town! What is happening? What's happening? Did Kuma do this? And all the Navy officials who are around to see it are just awestruck that someone would have the audacity. He punched out one of the 5 elders! The very highest authority in the world! Because of course no one in the Navy knows of Im-sama because his secret is just that. His existence is so secret that only the Gorosei and now the revolutionaries know of his existence. But Kuma's standing there as they're going, rescue Saint Saturn at once! Rescue Saint Saturn at once! He's trapped under the buildings! A slave just punched the man at the pinnacle of the world! This is a historical atrocity! And mind you, Kuma said something a little bit similar when he found out that Luffy had punched out St. Charlos. So now we have another historical atrocity of Kuma punching Saturn. And like I said, I absolutely loved it. So, next page, we have everyone who can get up now because since Kuma punched out Saturn, the power that was keeping everybody bound is now released from them. It's now released from them. Now they can move. Vegapunk can move. Sanji, Frankie, Atlas, they can all move now. And Kuma's just on one knee, and Bonnie is just crying as Vegapunk is like, "What happened? I did not attach any self-destruct switch. I knew that if I helped turn you into a bomb, they would inevitably use you as a suicide weapon, but I upheld their conditions in the end. I attached a total shutdown switch to you, and now that it's been thrown, you should be in a total vegetative state, without the ability to act of your own free will or even carry out orders. So it makes you wonder how Kuma is capable of moving right now. Because he should be... Can we have a poll in chat about who's coming to Egghead? Sure. I should do more polls. Start a poll. Yeah, I really should do more polls to get people engaged. Yeah, I really should do these more often. Let me see here. All right. So I started a poll. Who's coming to Egghead? The Revolutionaries, the Blackbeard Pirates, the Straw Hat Fleet, or Germa 66? Because we'll chat about that. We'll chat about that once we get to the final chapter. For the final chapter. Yeah, I really need to do polls more often because I really do need to do polls more often. I got to do it more often. But Vegapunk is wondering, and now that it's been thrown, you should be in a total vegetative state without the ability to act of your own free will or even carry out orders. There is no reason he should have sprung into motion, and no logical scientific basis for his arrival at this island where Bonnie is. So is it true then? It is not the physical strength of the Buccaneers that makes them remarkable? For at one point in time they, and of course Oda, loves to trail off and when we're about to get some knowledge about something. Loves to trail off when we're about to get some knowledge about something. And then just leaves us hanging. And then it shows Kizaru, who's just holding his head going, well, it's over. And then Sentomaru is smiling going, Kuma. And everyone's like, where's Straw Hat? He disappeared before we could apprehend him. I don't want to make that report, because Luffy is now gone. And it shows Bonnie holding the face of Kuma, who's, his face is incredibly stoic right now because his free will and memories are gone. So I can't say he's an empty shell of a man because an empty shell of a man does not fly to the location where your adopted daughter is and punch out the person who's causing her pain when you have no free will or memories. That's not an empty shell of a man. That's something deeper. That's something greater. I can't wait to find out that information. But she's holding on to his face, touching his face, going, thank you, Daddy. I saw all of your memories. Mommy was such a wonderful person, and you wrote me all those letters after all. I was so happy to find out. And that's a benefit. That's actually a benefit of her looking through Kuma's memories, because now she can know all the letters that Kuma ever wrote to her over the years. And pretty much everything that Kuma's ever done. So she was able to see that's the thing. Bonnie has seen everything that Kuma has ever done in his entire life, including the events of Thriller Bark and his thoughts on what he thinks of Luffy. So she was able to see that and hear that and experience that. So everything Kuma knew, she now knows. So that's something. So going back to this, everyone calls you a tyrant, but I know my daddy is the kindest and most wonderful man in the entire world. He truly is. And I'll never, ever forget it. And as she's holding on to Kuma, an explosion happens from all of the buildings that Saint Saturn is buried under, and he angrily gets up. Don't know what's going on here, just came to say hi because it's your last day off. Raw, we are talking about One Piece and the chapters and the 3 chapters we got this month. I do this every month. At the end of every month, I always have like a reflection stream where we talk about all the chapters we get of One Piece and where we think the story of One Piece is going to go due to the current events. But Jay Garcia gets back up, and Jay Garcia is bleeding from the face. His left horn is broken. His right arm is completely snapped off and broken as well. As he angrily screams, Vegapunk, how do you explain all of this? Was it your doing? As it shows Jay Garcia's horn immediately regenerating right then and there. And Vegapunk is all like, well, I suppose it must look that way. I could call it the power of love if it makes you feel any better. And as Jay Garcia is speaking, he's instantaneously regenerating. Like his horn is growing back, and his whole right arm, which was completely destroyed by Kuma, that's growing back and regenerating as well. Still don't know what facet of power this is, whether or not this was something done to Jay Garcia, or if it's an offset of his own devil fruit power. You are in the very early parts of One Piece, so early that you do not know one character that I'm talking about. Well, that's good, but at the same time, be careful if you want to know the rest of the story and you're still watching One Piece every now and again. I would hate to spoil you on anything incredibly major, but I'll be careful for you, but I gotta continue on. So Jay Garcia continues to regenerate instantaneously, and I have to say that to have a power like that in One Piece, it's ridiculously OP given the amount of powers that we've seen thus far. Like we've seen the capabilities of Logias, and I said this during my last reaction of the most recent chapter, that the ability to regenerate has always been the ability to regenerate one's body from injury has usually been something that has been attributed to Logia types and Marco. Because Marco is he's a mythical phoenix. He's capable of regenerating his body from any sort of injury for himself and moderately healing other people. But Marco can do it because he's a mythical Zoan type, versus Logias, who can just straight up do it if their bodies are trained to do it on reflex, and which a lot of Logias are pretty much trained to do that already. So Logias are capable of regenerating their body parts from their Logia states. Now, mind you, they are not able to regenerate their bodies if they lose their limbs outside of their Logia state, as is the case of Kuzan, who during his fight with Akainu lost a leg. And him being a Logia type, he can't just instantly regenerate that leg right back because he lost that leg in his normal state and not in his Logia state. Because if he was in his Logia state, he could easily regenerate, as is the case where his body was broken apart by Whitebeard during the Marineford War, where his body shattered into pieces, but he instantly reconstituted himself along with freezing the entire battleground that he was in, and he was perfectly fine. But regeneration is a very OP skill to have. It's very overpowered. It's very overpowered in a world where very few categories of devil fruits are capable of regenerating themselves, and not a lot of devil fruit powers are capable of doing that. We don't necessarily know whether this is a part of his own devil fruit power that just allows him to regenerate, or if it's from an outside source, such as the Eternal Youth Surgery, that allows him to just basically regenerate. To be honest, I like Wolverine just for that regeneration ability. It is overpowered. The ability to regenerate your body from damage is not a small thing. It's not even a small superpower, because you're literally having your body, and especially if it's almost instantaneous regeneration, you get slashed across the chest and that holes just immediately sews itself up, and then you're just back to normal. Your cells are fine. It's as if you never suffered that damage at all. That's an overpowered type of skill to have. And in the world of One Piece, where hockey and overpowered devil fruit powers are pretty much the cream of the crop in this series, the ability to regenerate from damage almost instantaneously is not a small thing. The adamantium skeleton on fire was such a good picture. I cannot wait to play Insomniac's Wolverine game, and I can't wait to see what they do with Wolverine's regeneration in that game as well. Oh, I can't wait. But Jay Garcia immediately starts regenerating right then and there. Like, his whole arm just starts to reform right there in front of him. And Sanji's all like, hey, how come his body's regenerating? And it shows Kuma as Jay Garcia is preparing to stab Kuma in the back. And Sanji, who's free from the overwhelming force that was, pushing him down, he comes in and he kicks away Jay Garcia's leg so that it doesn't harm Kuma again. And then Frankie shows up going, we owe Kuma a great debt too. Radical? And it's true, you've developed very well. And Frankie shoots Jay Garcia straight through his body, which of course gets regenerated quickly as well with his radical beam. And Kizaru appears right behind Frankie and proceeds to, he kicks Frankie, who goes flying into the distance. Then it shows Jay Garcia, who's silently standing there, as the hole in his body immediately starts to seal up. Once again, I'm telling you, regeneration is overpowered in this world. Because when people get heavily injured or grievously injured in this series, they either die or they take an exceedingly long period of time to recover. Case in point, A lot of times when Luffy's doing a whole bunch of fighting and he's getting heavily damaged by people, he's got to rest a long time. We've seen it in many instances. Moments where Zoro's been heavily injured and grievously injured and he's had to rest an incredibly long time. We've seen it before. Instant regeneration pretty much makes this individual incredibly hard to overcome with physical damage, because instantaneous regeneration complicates things. We've seen a lot of devil fruits that give people increased strength. We've seen a lot of people just get beat into submission, but never have we seen a person get punched and injured, lose a horn, lose an entire arm, and they just get back up and they just regenerate instantaneously as if nothing ever happened to them. That's overpowered. So we have Bonnie who says, "Daddy's not moving, Vegapunk." So Atlas picks up Kuma because Kuma's not moving. Kuma's not moving. So Atlas picks him up so they can get him to the Labo phase so they can hopefully fix him and repair him and, get him right as rain again. Then it shows Kizaru, who's standing there with Jay Garcia. Now that even Kuma's in the scene, I'd say we got an abundance of players, wouldn't you? Let's finally end this. And then Vegapunk goes, "Can't you take the pressure?" "Can't take the pressure? You're a sad man, Kizaru." "Yes, I'm a miserable sight. I should have brought darker shades." And then Jay Garcia screams out and yells, "The Buster Call has been activated. This island has been declared a threat to the world government. All warships prepare for bombardment. Burn it to the ground in the name of justice. Those who study the secrets of the world, those who possess the blood of a lost people, those who have awakened an ancient god. This island is full of inconvenient people who must be eradicated." And this is when the Buster Call begins. So, going back to what Jay Garcia said here at the end of this chapter, those who study the secrets of the world, Vegapunk, and the people of Ohara. Those who possess the blood of a lost people, Kuma, who is a buccaneer, who is of the buccaneer people. And those who have awakened an ancient god, Luffy, who has awakened his devil fruit. This island is full of inconvenient people who must be eradicated. And it really shows you that he says inconvenient people who must be eradicated, but we all know that these are individuals who pose the greatest threats to the world government. The people who know the secrets of the world pose a threat to the world government and where they are positioned. Those who possess the blood of a lost people, such as Kuma, they pose a threat to them. And those who have awakened an ancient god, Luffy, who awakened his own devil fruit, poses a significant threat to the world government because it could topple everything that they've built up over the past 8 centuries. These are the individuals who they want to get rid of the most because of what potential these individuals have against them. See, you got Vegapunk, the world's smartest man. Should that world's smartest man be turned against the world government has absolutely no deterrent against this individual. What do you do against the world's smartest man, who's capable of creating things 500 years into the future from 800-year-old technology? When you said awakened, I remember solo leveling in the pit in my stomach that the shadows would be CGI, but since Kasaka wasn't CGI, I have some hope, but still, I don't think the shadows are going to be 3D. I don't think so. I think they're going to be animated. And even if they are CG, I imagine it's going to be good CG. Not like the rudimentary that you see in a whole bunch of anime now. I imagine the shadows themselves will be either very well hand-drawn, or they have the good, or they have, like, very good CGI. What you do against the smartest man is to be insane and unpredictable. Unfortunately, the world government doesn't function that way. They function on a level like things must be done exactly according to plan. They don't think like Luffy. See, what you do against the world's smartest man is you introduce Luffy into the mix, because he's the most insane and unpredictable. Logia users can be injured with Haki, but Gorosei can't. That's my take. Ravi, that's actually not a bad take as well, because we've seen that certain devil fruits also don't, Also, I am pretty sure that it was Rasaka, but they made it Kasaka. I don't know for what reason. Was it? I mean, I pull up Rasaka and it immediately pulls up Blue Fanged Kasaka. And it doesn't have any differentiating spelling. Even when I was in Rasaka's Fang was the word. Even when I was reading the volume, and it's volume 2, it said Kasaka. It said Kasaka on the page as well. So I'm going to say that's the official name for it, because if it's published in the webcomic volume, then I want to assume that that's the official word that they're using. See, if I go here, let me see. Must be the mistranslation. Possibly. And what's funny here is that it has Rasaka, Green Rasaka, Purple Rasaka, Boss Rasaka. It says this in another different type of wiki. In a solo leveling simulator wiki. Never mind. Yeah. It's saying some places said Rasaka, but I want to say that if it's published in the English volume itself as Kasaka's Fang, then Rasaka may have been a fan translation that a lot of people have, resorted to because of reasons. But going back to this, all the individuals that pose the greatest threat to the world government, Luffy with his unpredictability and the power that he has now, since we know what his Devil Fruit power is, Vegapunk, him being the smartest man, and him also knowing the history of the world, and also Kuma being there, who's pretty much the last of the Buccaneer people, and whatever special traits that they have that make him capable of ignoring the shutdown switch and saving Bonnie. All these people hold a great deal of threat towards the world government. Not just because it's all like, oh, they're threatening the world government because they're pirates and this, all that. But no, them just simply existing is a threat to everything the world government has built. And that's the end of chapter 1104. Onwards to the final chapter of this month, 1105. The Height of Folly. So, the Buster Call begins. All of the sailors, just remember that Luffy was unpredictable even before the Goofy Looney Tunes power-up. Yeah, Luffy, if you noticed in the series of One Piece, and it's something that I've noticed when I was reading through all the volumes when I had that entire read-through, is that Luffy never has an inner monologue of him thinking things through. Never. There has never been a single instance when Luffy is actually thinking anything to himself. He acts on impulse. He just does it right then and there. Luffy is the most unpredictable individual in the entire series, is because the series never allows us to understand what Luffy's thinking. Over the entire history of One Piece, we never had a chance to have a thought of what Luffy's thinking, which is why whenever he does things, it's him doing it. We never know what he's going to do beforehand. When Luffy says, I'm going to do something, but we never get like an inner monologue, we don't know. He's just that unpredictable. Just wax, empty head, no thoughts, smooth brain. No, he thinks, it's just that we never get a chance to see how he thinks. We don't know how Luffy operates mentally. He just does things right then and there. So, he is the most insane and unpredictable individual to have on your side and also to go up against. Because anyone who sees Luffy thinks he's completely and utterly crazy whenever he does things. It's not that you don't see, I'm pretty sure he just does what he does what he wants. The thing is, Luffy doesn't take time to think things. Sorry, hiccups. think things through instantaneously right then and there. He might think for a moment, but we never get to see it. We'll never get to see his thoughts. We'll never get to think. We'll never get to be all like, because if you notice in the entire series, especially if you read the manga, Luffy does not have a moment where he's speaking to himself in his own mind, thinking this through, like, man, I don't know where Sabo is, or what am I doing here? He doesn't have an inner monologue for his own thoughts. There has yet to be a single time when he has one. So Luffy is that unpredictable nature. And the fact that you give the most insane and unpredictable person the power of Nika? His imagination is wild. His imagination is vast. His attention span can flip on a dime, and now he has the power regarded as one of the most ridiculous powers in the entire world. Which is kind of weird for being a shonen protag, looking at Deku. Yeah, Deku be having a whole bunch of inner monologues. Luffy's the exact opposite. He doesn't have any. So you never know what Luffy's going to do. Because he doesn't tell nobody. And because we never get to see his inner thoughts on when he does. So now you got this person who's an adversary of the world government. I mean, how insane do you have to be to go to Enies Lobby, literally one of the most secure locations in the entire world, where Cypherpole resides, and declare war on the world government because they're harming one of your friends? Nobody in their right mind would think that's a good idea. And even when, another thing that shows just how unpredictable that he is that he does not care about the status quo of nobility or whatever. He doesn't care. He runs hands with everybody. So when he punches St. Charlos, even someone who does not care about civilian casualties like Kid was all like, he's not about to do what I think he's about to do, is he? Because even he knows that you don't do that sort of thing. That's going to get you in a lot of trouble. Kid is an incredibly violent individual who will butcher anyone who laughs at Killer or makes fun of them. Yet he would not dare cross the Celestial Dragon when he sees injustice. Versus Luffy, who's all like, you hurt my friend. My name is Monkey D. Luffy. You hurt my friend Hachi. Prepare to die. And proceeds to punch him, which just shocks every person, including those who are nonchalant to the world government and whatever they do. You got Luffy, who's all like, yeah, I'm gonna punch you in the face. You can't do that. He's a Celestial Dragon. I'm gonna punch you in the face. You can't do it. He'll call an admiral. I'm gonna punch him in the face. You can't do it. You'll make everything worse for everyone. Punch! Luffy! That's Luffy. He does not care. He's the individual who does not see you based on your nobility, based on your social status. He only sees the person. And if you're a good person, he's a wonderful ally to have. But if he sees you as an enemy, he will run them pockets until you ain't got no more pockets. So now, this individual, the same individual that I've been ranting about this whole time, now has a power that's regarded as the most ridiculous in the world, that the world government has been trying to get their hands on for the past 800 years. It's in his hands now. The worst possible individual to have that power has that power. It's crazy how fate in One Piece works, right? That's a running theme. It's crazy how fate works. That scream reminds you of that one Zoro scream from the 4Kids dub. I know which one you're talking about. Luffy, hey buddy, let's talk this out. Save it! Luffy! Like, I love that one. It's funny because whoever's voicing Zoro in the 4Kids dub, that man said it like he was getting jumped in the recording booth right then and there. I have to say, out of all the voice actors for the 4Kids dub, Zoro's voice actor is by far the best. It's just a direction. It's just the vocal direction of characters that majorly brings it down. But his Zoro's voice actor in that show, in the 4Kids dub, he's solid. He's a good one. I think he actually appeared in some Funimation episodes of One Piece in the dub as well. I think he was voicing one of the imposter Straw Hats during the return to Sabaody. But yeah, he's very good. I don't know his name. I forget it. But While this is going on, everyone is fleeing to get away from the Buster Call, but Jay Garcia and Kizaru stay behind. With Jay Garcia going, Kizaru and I will remain on the island, while Vice Admiral Dahl is all like, St. Saturn, Admiral Borsellino, hurry to the ship! And she's trying to convince them to go, but Kizaru is all like, go. Welcome back, Kitty! We are currently on the final chapter of the last chapter we got this month, which is chapter 1105. The Buster Call is being enacted. For those who don't know, a Buster Call is a artillery warship bombardment on a location with the full intent of razing an entire area to the ground. In the case of the Buster Call of Ohara, it was meant to eradicate every single scholar and everything that was on the entire island of Ohara in an attempt to stamp out any possibility of the knowledge of the secrets of the world becoming, possible and being let out there. But what we have here on Egghead is an even larger Buster Call where over 100 warships compared to the few that was sent to Ohara and compared to the few that was sent to Eni's Lobby later on in the years. Over 100 warships were sent to Egghead with the fullest extent of completely and utterly destroying the entire island in the biggest Buster Call in history. So right now, all of Egghead is being evacuated of all the Navy sailors who pretty much invaded the place so that they can get to safety before the bombardment starts. And while everyone is trying to get away, only Jay Garcia and Kizaru, the admiral I was speaking of, who is a very interesting individual. I'll talk more about him at some other time. I would very much like to make videos on One Piece and the characters in it. I would very much like to start doing that. Like, I want to talk about Kizaru, how he is as a character, and just his overall strength, and do this for other characters as well. Since there's hundreds of characters, I would love to talk about that. Now, that's the name, Kizaru? Admiral, his real name is Borsellino, but Kizaru is his admiral code name. So I just call him Kizaru, but Borsellino is his actual name. But Jay Garcia and Kizaru are staying behind because they're pretty much the only people that can survive the bombardment. Jay Garcia can just regenerate instantly, and Kizaru is literally a man who ate a fruit that allows him to turn into light. Oh, Egghead. Oh yeah, Egghead. Yeah, it's really on the nose because that's another nickname for smart people. It's like a slang term for like very smart people. Look at those eggheads in those rooms. You know they're coming up with something smart. So Egghead is literally a play on the words of incredibly smart people. So, but the thing with Kizaru, if you didn't know, Kitty, is that he ate a fruit called the Glint Glint fruit, which allows him to create, manipulate, and turn into light. And it is incredibly overpowered because not only is he capable of turning into light, he's capable of moving at pretty much light speed. So, in his case, that essentially makes him almost pretty much the fastest person in all of One Piece. He is capable of, and his main methods of using his devil fruit power is that these can also turn into lasers that also hold both piercing and explosive properties. He's able to pierce through people easily with his lasers, and he's also able to shoot off lasers that almost, should I even ask? Well, I see, there's a lot of debate. There's a lot of debate between whether or not he's able to actually achieve light speed or if he's able to achieve close to it. But he's very overpowered. Kitty, you have no idea just how strong he can actually get. We don't, but the trouble about that is, I say almost, or pretty much near, is because we've never seen Kizaru at the peak of his strength. We've never seen him use the fullest extent of his power. Anytime we see him use his power, it's overpowered, but it's never the limit. It's never, we haven't even seen like he uses the bare minimum of his strength. And no one has been able to get a one-up on him except for Luffy and Whitebeard thus far. Luffy, because his Gear 5 ability, his Gear 5 state allows him to bypass the intangibility of someone like Kizaru and just bypass it through the use of Toon Force. And that's the first time we've ever seen Kizaru get bodied by someone completely. So with Kizaru, that sounds like the most powerful and dangerous one of the fruits I've heard of now. Oh, I'm not done. See, the thing with Kizaru is that he can essentially move at the speed of light, essentially making him the fastest person in One Piece, theoretically. But the speed in which he moves, it can only go in a straight line. Because when you have light, it can only go in a straight line. It doesn't just zigzag. He can reflect himself off of different places and rebound. But his accuracy and his ability to determine his location instantaneously, it borders on the superhuman because he has perfect aim. This man was able to destroy Ki that Luffy was going to use to free his brother Ace earlier on in the story, and Kizaru was far away from Luffy where he could not even see the Ki itself, yet his aim is just that true. His aim is just that perfect. He is capable of blitzing people in an instant before they can even react. During the Sabaody Archipelago arc, where everyone was trying to get away from the island because Luffy punched the Celestial Dragon, and Kizaru was summoned there to resolve the issue. He blitzed a couple of supernovas, members of the worst generation, pirates who reached 100 million berries at a very young age. They're regarded as the worst generation. He managed to catch up to a person who was, trying to escape through rooftops. He used a move called Yata no Kagami, or Sacred Yata Mirror, which allows him to create this orb of light that then shoots a line that can then reflect off of different surfaces, and he appears at the end of that light instantly. He just sends the beam, and then when when the beam has reached the location he wants to be at, he turns into that light and is immediately at the end. He then proceeds to body the person who's trying to escape through rooftops before this person could even react. And while he's in the air, another member of the worst generation is watching, and all he sees is just a flash of light, and Kizaru is already in front of him, preparing his foot to kick this man in the face. While this man is still looking in the direction of where he saw Kizaru flash away. He's still looking in the direction of where Kizaru was, and Kizaru is already has his foot directly in front of his face preparing to kick him, and then proceeds to kick him directly into a building. His name should be broken. I'm not done yet, kitty. See, during the entirety of the Egghead arc, we found out that Kizaru is capable of using a brand new facet of his power. See, he has another move called Yasakani no Magatama, or Yasakani Sacred Jewel, if you're going by the dub, which allows him to put his hands up and send an endless torrent of light bullets that have incredible piercing power and can heavily damage an individual if they're hit by it over a widespread area. He was knocked out of Egghead by Luffy, and he was nonchalant about being knocked out of the water. Because the thing about Devil Fruit, he was nonchalant about being knocked out over the water. Because the thing about, so just like a nuke, I wouldn't say a nuke. It was just like, think a minigun, but a minigun with hundreds of different barrels. Hundreds of barrels that fire in a wide, almost 360-like arc. That's what Kizaru can do with the Yasakani no Magatama. So, Kizaru gets knocked out of Egghead earlier in this arc, and he's getting knocked towards the ocean. And he's just falling towards the ocean with his arms crossed, like, water's getting kind of close. And using his ability to turn into light, he completely avoids it. Because when you can turn into light, you can make your body lightweight. Not even making a pun here. And he just floats back into the air. So, a mini railgun with dozens of barrels. So, he makes himself light enough to float in the air, which is something he's capable of doing. Float in the air, and then uses Yasakani no Magatama, and shoots bullets over to Egghead again. And mind you, all these light particles are capable of moving at the same light speed that he can. So, he basically just uses Yasakani no Magatama, shoots these light particles over there, and in the process, turns into that same light particles so that they all fly towards Egghead at light speed so he can get back there. Another facet of this ability is that these same light particles can become clones of himself. Which is something that none of us ever thought that Kizaru would be able to do. He is capable of using this same widespread minigun light torrent, this light spray, and all those individual light particles can become a clone of himself, which are intangible, invulnerable, and can still attack you. They're all just light versions of himself in his Logia state where he's intangible, you can attack them, it won't do anything, but they can attack you. So how does that even work? It's crazy! It's crazy! He can create light clones! The opposite of shadow clones! Light version of himself, but isn't he already light? See, when he does this, he's in his regular state. This dude have a weakness, they're gonna need to find it. He does have a weakness. All Logia users are weak to Haki, which is basically the ability to wield your own willpower as a physical manifestation or a physical weapon. And that is something that can negate, that completely nullify the intangibility of a Logia user. So yeah, Haki is indeed it's because one thing you learn, Haki and of course the Yami Yami no Mi, which is the dark fruit, which is in the hands of Blackbeard. That's a story for another time because I could go on a full tangent about the dark fruit, which is regarded as the most evil of all devil fruits. Because the one thing about, and I'll be quick about this, Kitty, because I got to get back to the rest of this chapter, because it's already about to be 2 o'clock, and I'm not going to have as much time to get through as much Suicide Squad as I would want to, if I still want to do that. But, so it's like that one meme of someone determined enough to look at the sun. I mean, not that level of willpower. It's a different kind. Because that's not determination, that's just stupidity. Determined enough to look at the sun, you're determined enough to lose your eyesight. That's just stupidity. But the thing about the dark fruit, Kitty, is that it has a big major drawback. It is a Logia fruit, but the person cannot turn into darkness. Because it's essentially the Yami Yami no Mi, dark fruit, allows a person, and it's a Logia type fruit that it is stupid to try and fight that guy too, yeah. But it's a Logia type, just like Kizaru is, that allows a person to create and manipulate darkness, which also has an added gravitational effect to it. So when Blackbeard uses it, he has a move called Black Hole, which sends this gigantic mass of darkness across a certain area, and anything that's in that darkness slowly starts to get crushed into it, like a literal black hole. The other aspect of the dark fruit is its capability of nullifying devil fruit powers completely. So when Blackbeard touches a devil fruit user, it's as if they never ate a devil fruit at all. It's not like Luffy falling into the water, which has the same effect. Devil fruits falling into the water, devil fruit users falling into the water, has the effect of robbing that person with the ability to swim. That's the one major drawback of eating a devil fruit, is that you can no longer swim. You fall into the water, you can't move, you just sink and potentially drown, unless you're a fish man who somehow ate a devil fruit, and you're just left at the bottom of the ocean with absolutely no way to move. But the thing about that is that even if you're underwater, the devil fruit properties throughout a person's body can still function. In the case of Luffy specifically, he's capable of still being stretched, but he himself cannot move. Unless you are a skeleton that goes, I don't know. Because Brook Brooke was brought back with the revive fruit. Yeah, and they're on boats surrounded by water. Exactly. The world of One Piece is just one giant planet that is mostly ocean, peppered with islands. He can run on water, yes? Yes, he can, but only for a certain amount of time. It's not forever though. But, still. But the thing with the dark fruit is that it completely nullifies a person's devil fruit power completely. It's as if they never had it. So Luffy, if he was touched, and he has been touched by Blackbeard, and then slammed by Blackbeard, and Luffy immediately started bleeding, because Luffy's devil fruit power allows him the ability to shrug off blunt force trauma. So if you were to punch Luffy, you need to be significantly strong, because blunt force attacks don't really work on a dude whose body basically contorts and moves like rubber. So blunt force trauma doesn't necessarily really work that well on him unless you are of sufficient strength. But with Blackbeard, he touches Luffy during the Impel Down arc, slams Luffy into the ground, and Luffy immediately starts bleeding, because Luffy has suffered damage he would normally never suffer due to his devil fruit power offsetting the blunt force damage. Hold on, family. Family's calling me. Give me a sec. Food's on the way. Food's on the way. I gotta hurry up with this stream, cause food's on the way. But, the thing with Blackbeard is his powers completely nullifies a devil fruit user's powers. So if you were to touch someone like Kizaru, Kizaru would not be able to turn into light at all. It's just like that. If he touches you, you're robbed of your power, which is detrimental to individuals who rely on their devil fruit powers to allow them to avoid damage, which was the case when Ace was fighting Blackbeard. As soon as his powers were taken from him, it was unfamiliar to him. It was relatively unfamiliar to him to suffer such damage, because he's so used to his ability to turn into fire, allowing attacks to bypass him completely, that it was a shock. And the fact that Blackbeard is incredibly strong physically. But that's the power of Kizaru. His ability to turn into light. So I say all that to say this. Kizaru and Jay Garcia are the only ones who can survive the bombardment of Egghead, because they are the only ones who can physically take it. Everyone else is not capable of surviving the Buster Call. Jay Garcia, he can instantly regenerate. Kizaru, he literally can just allow all the explosions to happen around him, because it won't actually touch him. Because he's trained his body to turn to light on reflex. So even if a cannonball were to go straight through, hit him in the head, it would go straight through him. Because that's how his powers work. Since he can turn into light, it just phases through him. So while that's going on, Vegapunk really does let his true anger show, as he goes, "I thought my life was the only thing you wanted, Saint Saturn. Egghead is packed with the fruits of the latest research in every conceivable field. Destroy it and you'll set the state of scientific progress back 100 years. Call off the Buster Call. And Vegapunk's right. Did the video get posted? There's no link, but I'll look it up later. I'll look up the Yu-Gi-Oh later. The Yu-Gi-Oh video later. I'll look it up later. I'll look it up. Yeah, I'll look it up. I'll look up 4Kids Yugi. I'll look it up later. But Vegapunk is right though. Everything that he has done on this entire island, all the research that he's done, it'll basically just be erased with this Buster Call and over 100 years worth of scientific research. All right, Raul, good night. Have a good night. It was an honor to have you here. Hope you enjoyed yourself while we were taking part in this discussion. Actually, you know what? I need to look at the polls. Let's look at the polls. We had 8 votes that I posted 45 minutes ago on who's coming to Egghead. And we have 25% for the Revolutionaries. We got 38 for the Blackbeard Pirates. We have 25% for the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. And we have 12% for Germa 66. So I'll end the poll right then and there. And it looks like quite a few people have voted for it being the Blackbeard Pirates who show up, with the Revolutionaries and the Straw Hat Grand Fleet being tied, and then very few voting for Germa 66. So a lot of people are thinking Blackbeard Pirates. But Vegapunk's right. There's so much technological advancements here. And then it has Vegapunk looking at Kizaru, who's looking forlorn off to the side, while Vegapunk's trying to beg for him, like, please, stop this. There's so much this can offer the world. And then Jay Garcia pretty much confirms what I have always thought about how the Gorosei and how the world government views the world as a whole. Are you still hiding something? Perhaps something troublesome to the world government. We do not need progress. So this sentence just tells me that the Gorosei want things to stay as they are. They don't need technological advancements. They don't need anything to progress the world. We need things to stay as they are. We don't need anything to change. And Vegapunk is screaming it's for the sake of humanity. And Vegapunk, while he loves creating things and he loves delving into secret forbidden knowledge, everything he's really done has been for the benefit of humanity. Trying to come up with an endless power source that everyone can have for every nation. And he wants Punk Records to be a place where a place where people can learn in and everything, knowledge for the entire world. And Jay Garcia is just looking to destroy it all because of the potential that it holds of people learning about the Void Century. So this is another time where we go further, where Jay Garcia drops the bombshell of I did forget to mention that I ordered a strike against the ship that escaped this island yesterday. And mind you, we've been on Egghead for so very long. We've been on it for so long that the chronology of it all sometimes escapes us. What we thought was a long time ago for the ship to escape Egghead, it literally just left the day before. That's how much time has passed during all these events. It's literally been just a day. A day has passed. So Vegapunk hears that Jay Garcia ordered a ship full of people who were evacuating, innocent researchers, other people who were living on Egghead before all of this went down. They left beforehand, but Jay Garcia, under the pretense of they could possibly know information about the Void Century, so send a detachment of battleships after them and sink them. Doesn't matter if there's innocent men, women, and children aboard, sink them, because we don't want to risk the chance of them knowing anything about the Void Century. So he's perfectly fine telling Vegapunk, hey, I just sent that ship. I ordered a strike against a ship full of evacuees and made sure that they sunk it. After all, it's possible that someone on board knew something about the Void Century, and that's his reasoning. I sent battleships after it to ensure there will be no survivors. How could you do such a thing? They know nothing. They committed no crimes. You caused this to happen to them, Vegapunk. You broke the law just as they did at Ohara. You could not overcome your lust for knowledge, and so you had to go digging up the past. And this is when we see the silent but incredibly angered face of Vegapunk as he just glares at Jay Garcia. And Jay Garcia is just standing there with his cane, just standing there, just reveling in all of this. So, pacifistas are on standby mode on the island. All of the sailors get on the ships. Ship 54, all green. Ship 21, all green. All the ships that came to Egghead are all trying to evacuate now before the bombardment starts. So while that's going, everyone else on the Straw Hat crew is trying to get to the vacuum rocket to get to the upper half of Egghead, which is also protected by a force field that no one but Kizaru is capable of getting through. So while that's going on, Bonnie is wondering, Sanji, what about Vegapunk? And Sanji says, don't worry, Bonnie, I'll bring him back. And that's when we start to see the rest of the Straw Hat crew, because we haven't seen them in weeks. We haven't seen them in like a month or so. It's been a while since we last saw them. So we see Nami, Robin, Chopper, Edison, who was once heavily damaged, but he's upright now, and Usopp, as they're trying to make their way out, because they're trying to figure out what's going to happen, because after the Vega Force 1 got destroyed by Kizaru, who used Luffy as his own personal little projectile, he destroyed the Vega Force 1. So now they don't have a way of using a giant robot to get off the island and to fly away from Vega Force 1, which will then allow the Sunny to use a coup de burst to shoot forward in the direction of Elbaf. But that's where the giant robot that awakened due to Luffy using Gear 5 may potentially come into play. So while that's going on, Lilith is traveling with Brook, who has used his Soul Solid ability, his ability of the Chill of the Underworld and Soul Solid to basically freeze clouds that allows the Sunny to move forward. Unfortunately, however, Brook did not account for how they stop the ship. So he's all like, oh, I hadn't thought that far ahead. And then Lilith's all like, what's your plan then, genius? What do you think it should be, Lilith? Because Brook, he didn't plan that far ahead. He was all like, yeah, I can freeze these clouds. We can get moving. Nice. How do we stop? Huh? So that's the situation that Lilith and Brook are in, along with Nami and everyone else trying to get everything situated. And Robin is being cared for in like a floating medical gurney because she's bandaged up because she got injured during the skirmish. The Labo phase above the clouds is still behind its barrier, and they all start firing. And one of the captains commences the bombardment of Egghead as all the buildings start to get destroyed. The Buster Call begins right now. And as this is happening, the pacifistas who are under control of Jay Garcia, they all start opening fire on everything on Egghead as well. So it's not just the warships, but it's also the pacifistas that are opening fire as well. Ravi, yo, welcome back. We are now talking about the bombardment, the Buster Call of Egghead that's happening right now. And Vegapunk is looking forlorn and saddened as he's just thinking, Egghead, because this is his life's work. This is what he spent a vast majority of his life working on for like so many years. And now it's all being destroyed. The vast futuristic city that we first got introduced to, both in the manga and recently the anime, all of that is being destroyed right now. Then we have Atlas, who gets inside of the vacuum tube along with Kuma and Frankie and everyone else. And they're trying to make their way up to the Labo phase. But who stops them but Kizaru? Kizaru phases right next to them. And Kitty, another aspect of Kizaru's ability is that he can create solid constructs out of light as well. And in this instance, he creates something called the Amano Murakumo sword, which is essentially a sword, a solid sword made of light, and proceeds to slice straight through not only the vacuum tube, but also through the whole capsule that they're all being held in as they're trying to get away. And they're all just flying in the air now. And as that's happening, Sanji's looking up and he sees everyone flying through the air, screaming, hang on, Bonnie, I'll save you. And then Jay Garcia, being the ever-present piece of trash that he is, he says, pacifistas, shoot down Bonnie and Kuma. And we have the inner monologue of Jay Garcia as he goes, the daughter he gave his life to save. Oh, he says, it's just exquisite. The daughter he gave his life to save. It killed by his own clone. Because all the pacifistas, all look like Kuma, because Kuma offered up himself to be a template for clones, essentially the way that Jango Fett did for all the clones during Star Wars. So all the pacifistas are aiming towards Bonnie and company. And Bonnie is just all like, Daddy! A fitting end for the insect she is. It is the height of folly, as everyone is falling through the air while the pacifistas are preparing to fire on Kuma and everyone who are just helpless in the air. But Kuma is holding on to Bonnie. You know, he's still not letting her go. And then we have Vegapunk, who's watching this, going, when I heard you become a pirate, Bonnie, there was one awful possibility that flashed through my mind, that the Navy might order the pacifistas taking your father's form to shoot his own daughter without realizing the irony of it. And that's always been something that's been lurking in Vegapunk's mind. Because up until this point, Bonnie really hasn't run into many pacifista. When you think about it, anytime we've seen Bonnie, she's always been in a place where no pacifistas were present. But now Vegapunk is just thinking like the Navy might order the pacifistas taking your father's form. Didn't reply on any of my One Piece anime reactions this week. That's never happened before. I didn't? I was sure that I did. Because I always do my best to reply to you. I apologize if I haven't. It should appear in this list if you said something for the recent anime episodes. Oh yeah! Sorry. So you did say something, but I didn't like heart it, and I didn't like it. I am so sorry. Think we had directly cut to middle of the fight in the manga. Here we're getting the beginning of it. Small spoiler for anime coming down. Yeah. I am so sorry, Ravi. They should give us time to read Devil Fruit powers on screen. It goes too fast. I can't read without pausing. Imagine watching on live TV. See, that's another thing that popped up. A lot of things have been happening in One Piece where they pop up on the screen. Once again, Ravi, I apologize. A lot of things have been happening on the screen in the anime of One Piece where I've actually had to rewind it so I could read out what it says, because the subtitles and like the text appear so quickly and then it just shifts like really, really fast. And I'm like, this never happened before. You could fully read a whole bunch of stuff on screen, but now you actually have to take the time. Hold on, let me just like what you said. And heart it as well. My apologies, Ravi. Now you gotta pause every so often. You gotta pause every so often in order to read what's all being said. And I'm wondering, when did that start? Like, when were we unable to fully read? When have we been able to? When have we been unable to read whatever has been said on screen on a One Piece like a One Piece screen? It gives us plenty of time, but now you got to be a speed reader and fully comprehend what's in front of you. So I don't know when they started that. But as Vegapunk is thinking of this, the irony to have his daughter shot by clones of him, of her own father. Then it shows a pacifista aiming, and then it shows that Luffy is still laying on the ground somewhere in a different area, and he's surrounded by a whole bunch of Navy individuals who's all like, hey, that's Straw Hat, right? Can't eat anymore, can't move. Capture him, he's one of the 4 emperors. And I'm like, you don't really think that Luffy's gonna allow you to capture him, right? So while that's going on, we cut to another section of the sea where Navy ships have been set on fire, have been utterly destroyed completely, and they're sinking into the water as they're going, we failed to destroy the escape ship. So that very same ship that Jay Garcia was so sure that he sent the Navy after, some of the Navy after to destroy, on the off chance that someone knew of the Void Sentry, they never made it. They never managed to do anything to that ship because they were destroyed by someone else. Must report back to Kizaru. Don't apologize, please. It's all okay. Yeah, but I see your comments. I see your comments, and like I see every comment that anyone sends me, all of them. So I apologize that I didn't acknowledge it. I didn't respond to it because I want to be able to, respond when it's appropriate and respond, especially respond to my members as well, because it's like, I mean, that's one of the perks of being a member is you get priority to comments. So I apologize that I didn't fulfill that end of the bargain of you being a member, where I gotta acknowledge what you guys are saying, especially my members, because is one of the perks, priority to comments to be a member. But I apologize. I'm sorry that I didn't respond to it. Hopefully, I was able to get what I'm saying towards your comment out to you, so you can audibly hear me. But I'll also, say the same thing and reply to that comment as well, because I got it up here. But the Navy ships that were sent after the evacuees of Egghead never made it to them because they got blown up. Their ships is just sinking into the water. We failed to destroy the escaped ship. Must report back to Kizaru. Tell him they went to Egghead. And then we just see the flag of the Navy ship, in flames. But we don't see who was it that destroyed it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the final chapter of the month of January for One Piece. And now I get to talk to all of you. I'm back. What I missed, I just finished reading through and talking about chapter 1105 and the final chapter of this month for January before we get February starting tomorrow. Now it's time for me to talk about where we are for One Piece. And now I can put this back in full screen so I can see chat. Stretching is so good. So now we can talk about the state of One Piece as it is right now. So, where we're at right now is the Buster Call is going. The Buster Call is going. Jay Garcia and Kizaru are staying behind. The Straw Hat crew are mobilizing so they can still try and enact their plan in order to get off of Egghead and then head to Elbaf. We have Luffy, who's currently being surrounded by regular Navy dudes. None of them are strong looking. All of them look like regular captains, soldiers, consigns, cosigns. They're surrounding Luffy. We got Bonnie, Atlas, Kuma, and Frankie flying through the air, currently at the mercy of the Pacifista who are down below. And Jay Garcia is just relishing the potential of Bonnie and Kuma dying in an embrace, being killed by the very clones of Kuma in the form of the Pacifistas. And now we also have that same detachment of Navy soldiers being completely and utterly destroyed by someone, which allowed the evacuees to escape. So where we're at right now is there's a lot of things happening in One Piece right now. The Buster Call is currently going on, and I feel like we're at a point where we can no longer go back. We still got Zoro, who's fighting Rob Lucci out there somewhere, where Jinbei went to go get him so that he doesn't get lost. So there's still some things to tie up here on Egghead before we head to Elbaf. Now, part of me actually thinks that Jay Garcia is probably going to walk away from this. He'll return to Marijois, tell of the travesty of Egghead, how things went down, and how it's probably going to make Luffy and his crew's job harder to go out there. Because I honestly feel, as much as I would want Jay Garcia to die in this arc, part of me actually feels like he's actually going to get away and then tell the rest of the Godosei what went down. And that's going to set into motion some things that is going to make Luffy and his crew's job harder to travel around the world. Or that of other pirates as well. So, I honestly feel, as much as I want him to die, I feel like he's going to be able to leave. Because if they're all trying to get away from Jay Garcia, they're not standing their ground. If they're all trying to get away from Jay Garcia, I honestly feel like he's going to be able to get away. And then tell everyone else what happened. That's what I feel. But at the same time, I still very much want him to die. Kizaru, however, unless Jay Garcia orders him to, and mind you, Kizaru is out here still trying to cause problems for basically everybody, making it hard for Atlas and company to get to the Labo phase because he pretty much just sliced the main way for them to get up there. He literally just sliced up the tube that would allow them to get to the top of the Labo phase safely. And now they're all just plummeting right back down to the Fabrio phase again. So I don't know what's going to happen. That's going to allow everyone who's currently airborne and being aimed at by these pacifistas. I don't know what's going to happen that allows them to survive. I highly doubt anyone major is going to die in this moment, such as Bonnie, Kuma, Frankie, Atlas, Vegapunk. I highly doubt anyone's going to die, but at the same time, I am so unsure of how they're going to survive this ordeal. I can't wait for the next chapter, but I have absolutely no idea how they're going to survive this whole ordeal. And if they fall right back down to the ground, then they're back at square one again, trying to get back up to where the rest of the crew is. But I also feel like where we're at in the story for Egghead, we're at the moment where it is time to go. You can't lollygag, you can't lollygag anymore. It's time to go. It's now or never. You gotta get out. You gotta get away from them because any moment they are there on Egghead will complicate them getting away from all the warships that have completely surrounded the island. So, honestly, I feel like we may have like a handful of chapters left. Maybe about... We don't have a break, right? No, I checked it. We get a chapter this upcoming Sunday. This is the last chapter we got is not on break. It's not a break chapter. We're not going on break. We're getting another one this upcoming Sunday. But I feel like we may have maybe... I want to be generous. I want to say maybe 4 or 5 chapters left before we're gone. Pushing it if we get to 6 or 7 chapters. But I honestly feel like we don't have too many chapters of Egghead left before we leave Egghead. Because Egghead's being destroyed. There's only so much more we can do here. We still got some other things to tie up, like Stussy and Kaku. We still got to tie up the loose ends of, like, the Seraphim. The Seraphim are sealed inside bubbles right now that rob them of their ability to use their devil fruit powers and, you know, be a nuisance against Luffy and his crew, so they're still sealed up. We still got the other members of the Cypherpole agents that were trapped down underneath Egghead. We still got them. We still got Zoro versus Lucci. That's going on right now. And then we have everyone all convening together. All convening together in order for them to leave. So there's still certain things, certain loose ends that need to be tied up before we completely leave Egghead. Which, now that I think about it, part of me is still feeling like maybe it'll be more than 7 chapters before we're out of Egghead. That's how I feel. We still, and we also got Luffy who's being surrounded. We don't know if he's gonna burn off all that fat instantly and then just body everybody and then try to rescue his friends. We don't know what's about. We don't know, but there's still so many things, so many loose ends to tie up before we're gone from Egghead that I feel may not actually get resolved in 4, 5, 6, or even 7 chapters. So that's how I feel about it. There could be potential that we leave Egghead in March. We'll probably still be in Egghead in February, but part of me thinks that we'll probably leave in March. With the chapters in March. Loose ends can be tied up in cover stories like Whole Cake. That's true. That's true. But some of these loose ends, I think, are bigger than cover stories. It's not like Germa and them trying to fight Whole Cake when they're trying to rescue their siblings. I don't think it's going to be like that. I feel like the loose ends that need to be tied up need to be covered in the actual chapters themselves and not with cover story. But like I said, part of me thinks that we may leave Egghead in March, if not the end of February. But I honestly feel like March is a far more generous time. But other than that, just to bring this to a close, because family's going to be getting here soon and I want to help them bring the food in. Other than that, the entire month of January has been substantially amazing. I'm glad we're done with Kuma's flashback because we're in the present and we get to resolve the issues there. We got the perfect timing, families here. We got the greatest punch in One Piece due to Kuma punching the highest authority in the world, which is something that no one could have ever thought possible. And now the Buster Call of Egghead is taking place now, and now we're just left wondering, where are we going to end up from here? Overall, I enjoyed all of these chapters. I'm looking forward to the chapters we get in February, and then seeing if things start to tie themselves up in February, if not in March. But overall, I enjoyed this. I enjoyed having this conversation with all of you. I need to get downstairs and help my family out with food. Ravi, CDs, literally everyone who has watched all that I have done today and tuned in to everything I've been doing with One Piece related stuff. I just want to say it's an honor and a privilege to be your entertainer. Thank you for giving me your time today, and I can't wait for us to react to the next chapter of One Piece on Sunday. Hope you all enjoyed. Can't wait to see you all in my next video. Like, comment, subscribe, and even become a member, because I am always looking forward to entertaining you. So have a fantastic day. And once again, as always, later, peoples.